Hello, good evening. Welcome to Carrow Road ahead of Norwich City's penultimate home game of the season. They're welcoming Derby County to Carrow Road this evening, hoping, of course, Derby to crash that top six race later on with 3 games to go. Norwich still mathematically in there, but they'll need to win all their games and hope that others don't pick up a point. The Norwich City team is in. Let's deliver that for you now. This is how Norwich City lineup tonight. It is Kovacic in goal, Stacey, McConville, Cordoba and Fisher, the back 4, Matson and McLean, the midfield 2, with Gibbs, Magoma and Forson behind Mo Torre. So that's Kovacic in goal, Stacey, McConville, Cordoba, Fisher, Matson, McLean, Gibbs, Magoma, Forson, Slimani. The subbench, Grimshaw, Darling, Wright, Slimani, Field, Slup, Chris Goran, Mundle-Smith, and a first substitute appearance or matchday squad appearance for young Zach Bauman. He makes the bench as well. So a few changes there from Norwich City perspective. Philippe Clement spoke yesterday about maybe those players who were carrying knocks that wouldn't be able to be involved. No Ali Ahmed in that lineup, and no Oscar Schwartau either. We are led to believe both of those are fitness related. I don't know if you remember in the first half of that victory, at Ashton Gate, Ali Ahmed picked up a pretty big whack in that first half. Oscar Schwartau, we will obviously speak to Philippe Clement after the game, but that is how Norwich City line up. Paddy joins me. He is sat, I think, in the seat that Philippe Clement will be sat in later this evening to take questions from him. We were waiting to see which players would be missing tonight, Paddy, and it is Ali Ahmed and Oscar Schwartau. Your thoughts on that Norwich City team?
Give me a thumbs up, Connie. You can hear me okay? No problem.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Excellent, yeah. Well, I mean, he set it up, didn't he, yesterday? He said he didn't really want to give too much away, but clearly there was, by the tone of his suggestion around the team news, that there were 1 or 2 more than doubtful, and so it's proved, both of those, Schwartau and Ahmed, clearly wouldn't have dropped out of the 20 if it was anything other than fitness related. When the man himself is sat in this very seat post-match, we'll get a fuller update, and if we get anything sooner, we'll obviously communicate that. But and also McConville in for Darling, which isn't a fitness-related one, but I thought Philippe was quite good on that one yesterday, that almost a rotational element. It wasn't with McConville, kind of the heavy strapping he had on his knee the last couple of warm-ups, which he came back from obviously Northern Ireland duty with that issue. Referenced how he needs to play games because he will probably go away with Northern Ireland for their summer friendlies, and he's made that switch tonight. But I guess, going back to no Schwartau, no Ahmed, Uriah is drawn to the top end of the pitch, and again, Gibbs, the trust he's placing in him to try and operate on the right hand side of what you would expect looking at that is a 3. I mean, there was a little sort of suggestion Torre might be carrying a knock, but it's good to see that he's clearly available and able to start. So not getting another opportunity. Well, I thought he caught the eye for me at Bristol second half, like most of them did, and it's another, in terms of this bigger picture, chance for him to maybe put down a marker tonight. And of course, probably the biggest beneficiary of no Schwartau and no Ali Ahmed is Amankwa Forson, who's definitely a player who needs to grab every and any opportunity he's got now, because again, fitness wise with him, but it would feel he's got to play catch up in the mind of Philippe Clement. Every time you speak to him, there's praise, but there's also that we need more from him. We need more, whether it's fitness wise, or we need more when he gets an opportunity. Well, okay, tonight is his opportunity. So with this eye on the summer, what that might bring, and obviously then moving into the next season, decisions are going to be taken on players. I would suggest Forson is probably in the either or camp at the moment. I don't think you would say with any certainty that Amankwa Forson has got a big role to play here under Philippe Clement, but tonight's an opportunity maybe just to give him a reminder, because what he has got is clearly ability in the final third. We've seen his finishing ability sporadically, but nevertheless he does have quality. What we need from him, I think, is a real front-footed performance where he wants to put his personality onto this Norwich attacking performance. And it is a blow. I think no Schwartau particularly, but also no Ali Ahmed. But if I'm honest with Ali Ahmed, he looks increasingly like a player who's probably running on a bit of empty for reasons we've got into in previous platforms. He's played a lot of football for club and country since the turn of the year, since he made his move. So, okay, he does give you options and balance on that left hand side. But for me, Schwartau's the one of the ones unavailable tonight. He is the bigger miss. Where's your head at in terms of that front four, particularly, Connor?
Yeah, like you, it's gutting, isn't it, about Oscar Schwartau? Because it's no secret. I really like him as a player. It's clear Philippe Clement does as well, from obviously what you asked him yesterday and put those quotes up this morning. Probably an expectation that he was going to be missing tonight. And it was a really good display and obviously a really good moment of that display on Saturday where he was key to that transition, outpacing Sam Morsey, and then the awareness to cut the ball across. Ben Napper's just walking down the front of the stand in front of me there. But yeah, I mean, it's makeshift, isn't it? I mean, Gibbs on the right again. He's kind of becoming Norwich's human polyfiller, kind of wherever there's a slot in the team, irrespective of defence, attack, wherever he seems to slot in. And to be fair, I think that's a testament to him because of the intelligence that he has, because of the ability, I guess, with the energy that he has to put in a shift, irrespective of where he plays. And what it allows you to do, and to be fair, we saw this on Saturday, we spoke about it at Ashton Gate, was when he was playing at left back, and we've seen Manchester City and other teams do it, he was inverting into midfield anyway. So actually with Stacey going out wide, I'd expect him to be in probably the opposite sides, but in those little pockets between the wing and inside the pitch when Norwich are attacking. So it probably isn't too much of a different role compared to maybe what he had at the weekend. But yeah, he's not Oscar Schwartau. He's not really a kind of attacking midfielder, so that is interesting. And then I'd echo all of your thoughts on Forson. Really feels like a big night for him, doesn't it? Because he just hasn't had a consistent run of games when he's been at Norwich because of his fitness and because of maybe his performances at times as well. So he's produced big moments. We've seen that he's capable of scoring some wonderful goals. But now it's about him being more involved and showing a little bit more consistency. I have to feel probably in the same way that we've spoken about Matthias Chris-Goran, and I hope to be proven wrong, and maybe I will be. I don't really get the sense that he is a Philippe Clement player in terms of what we think about power and pace. He's a bit more technical and just suited maybe to a slightly different style of play, but I think there's definitely some potential there. And what you would say of Magoma, Forson and Toure, there's the ability, if you're Toure, you would imagine to get fed some really good balls in behind tonight and into feet by those two. So it's an interesting attacking makeup. Obviously, Norwich haven't been able to get real consistency in those forward areas. But yeah, I think you're right for those reasons you mentioned. We spoke, we might have been on one of these shows a couple of weeks ago about Ali Ahmed and how much football he's played, and straight in at Norwich off the back of an MLS season. I think he said he had 1 or 2 weeks break. Then to go into what was a really key part of the season, he's basically played the majority of the minutes, played through a knock. So yeah, look, it's not ideal, but we've said, haven't we, Paddy, that this time of the season is about experimentation. It is about Philippe Clement trying not just different formations and different ways of playing, but also about playing different players. And if not, he's going to get an opportunity to look at Forson in closer quarters, and then on the bench as well, Jeffrey Schlupp, Zach Bauman, Errol Mundell-Smith. There's some interesting kind of narratives on the bench there as well from what he might be looking for from tonight and for the rest of the season with a view to next season.
Absolutely, and clearly off the back of those Schwartau comments, particularly from Philippe, he doesn't want to be without him for any length of time. That's evident. But equally, if it is a Forson, if it is maybe even a Mundell-Smith, taking a step forward and just providing some further evidence that they can be part of what will need to be a squad effort. It won't certainly, for where Norwich are now, in terms of orbiting that area of the Championship, to get to where the Coventries and, dare one say, Ipswiches and Millwalls of this world are next season, it would have to be a squad effort, and they will need depth, absolutely. And that's why, clearly, in Philippe Clement's mind, these aren't dead rubbers, these aren't meaningless end-of-season fixtures. Every single time the Norwich team steps on the park or a Norwich squad is selected, you get the sense the cogs are going in terms of, he's computing, that player could maybe mature into something that's a younger player, or if it's a more established player, yes, like Harry Darling, to give him his due. Okay, he comes out the side today, but I don't think there's any doubt Millwall onwards, his consistency and his performance levels have gone up from where they were probably since the start of the season. So for me, I think he's probably done enough now that Philippe Clement feels that he could be an option within that mix of centre backs. Not maybe as his first choice. I think that's Cordoba and McConville for me, but nevertheless, he now looks like, as opposed to Jakov Medic, one who probably will be on the journey moving forward. So yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with that. It probably is harsh. Albeit, I think I did say last week, for me, McConville is the better option and should come back in. But he was good again. I mean, that was an unbelievable block in the first half at Ashton Gate, and in the way that game played out, a big moment, every bit as big as the later goals. Because if they'd have gone 2-3 behind, they're not coming back. So it probably is a touch harsh. But nevertheless, McConville, I don't think did too much wrong other than get injured at the wrong time. That ultra consistent run he had from sort of Clement's second game in charge right the way through pretty much the last month or so. So he probably felt it was a little bit harsh that he wasn't restored to the lineup when fitness wise he was fine. So I guess what we're talking about there is that competitive edge that now we need to see from front to back, not just in pockets of the squad, which is for me where it still feels it is. And we're going to have to look on the right hand side again. It's Liam Gibbs tonight, Kenny McLean a couple of games ago. It was Jurasek. Forson's been tried in there. For me, there are better areas of this squad in terms of depth and quality than others. And, maybe that is to bring it full circle to what you asked me here, Connor. That's why tonight it's an opportunity. One of those players on the margins to just take a step forward. And you never know, off the back of that, they might then get a bit more game time against Swansea, maybe against Hull, and then they bounce into the summer. And, Clement's then beginning to think if it is a Forson, if it is one of some of the younger players, okay, yep, I'm liking what I'm seeing from them. There's progression there. You will do for me, and you'll be on this journey moving forward. Because I don't think what we can say with clarity is there'll be no sentiment. This guy is very much, I want to get this club back to the Premier League. That's going to be a very steep trajectory if those players aren't seemingly able to keep pace. He'll cut them, and that's why if I'm in that group of players at the moment and I get an opportunity, you have to take it.
Yep, you do indeed, and it's going to be really interesting. And the thing is, as well, I mean, we speak so much about maybe Norwich not having like what their opponents have tonight, a real end goal, and we've spoken and we've mapped out the permutations that would be. But I think we were all in agreement that is there'd have to be quite a set of circumstances to unfold from here to Norwich to get into the top six. Namely, of course, first and foremost, Norwich winning their final 3 games of the season. But they are playing teams that do have a lot on the line, with the exception of Swansea, really. Derby and Hull both very much in that playoff race, and that should, you would hope, provide motivation for them to raise their levels. And you expect these games to operate at a real high intensity, and that should then hopefully push some of those players on further. And if there is any of that kind of on the beach nature of it, which thank you very much, you'd hope there isn't, that should hopefully fuel them a little bit to find their performances. That with, like you say, Paddy, the internal situation, and even if you are a Forson as well, it might not even be from a Norwich City perspective. It's very windy up here, and I'm trying to balance my team sheet. But it's like I say, it might not even be internal influences. It could be for other clubs. It could be to put yourself in a shop window or whatever. Those elements are also at play here as well. So hopefully those players are able to find that today. Let's bring you the Derby County team. They've got Jacob Setterstrom in goal, Merkin, Clark, Langas on Ward, Ozoa and Travis, the midfield 2, with Bernal, Schmoddux and Brereton Diaz behind a certain Carlton Morris, who starts up front for them. Their suspension: Vickers, Forsyth, Bart, Salverson, Johnston, Frollo, Ames, Gordon and Allen. So quite a young Derby County bench there as well. But if we kind of look to the Norwich bench, Paddy, I mean, the first appearance for Zach Bauman. I mean, he is somebody maybe people aren't that aware of. He signed last summer from Manchester United on deadline day for what was a free transfer. He's a Ukrainian youth international, central midfielder. We've seen him. I remember him being at Charlton, but he's been at a few games now where he's been in and around the squad, or he's travelled with the squad. He's trained with the squad a lot. He's clearly someone Philippe Clement likes. I think he's played a bit more as a number 10, but I think he can play a little bit deeper as well. I guess, can list the names who aren't here tonight. I mean, Emi Marconde, Shane Duffy, Jakov Medic, you mentioned him, coupled with obviously all of the injured players as well. The fact that Zach Bauman is part of the team suggests that Philippe Clement wants to have a little look at him ahead of the end of the season, and that is only positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't confess to knowing too much about him. Probably have seen him in 21's action now and again. But if he does get on the pitch in these remaining 3 games, then that probably is a little signal that the opinion that matters in all of this equation, which is Philippe Clement, he feels that there is a player there, a bit like Mundell Smith. I'm not sure necessarily, but before Clement came in, you would have, I know he was just on the cusp there under Liam Manning, but saw that he would maybe be one who could come across and seemingly have enough about him at this age and this inexperience to actually make a contribution. And it needs to happen in the broader picture because we know how important that academy pathway is. We know how determined they are to almost reconnect it, that pipeline, because it hasn't really over the last 4 or 5 seasons. Yes, of course, there's isolated, case studies. John Rowe would be a prime example, clearly, of one they managed to push through. But, you look at Kellen Fischer, they brought him in and it wasn't much of a finish in school because within a couple of weeks of that pre-season, he was firmly in the first team mix. Mahovo kind of brought him in off the shelf, you could argue, from Notts County. Even Oscar Squarto, given his relative youth, I know he was already a senior player for Bromley, but it feels like the younger talents, the pathways have been almost developed elsewhere and then brought in towards the end of their development cycle. That needs to change. It needs to come through from the academy, and we know there's now a vacancy with Dean Raspick moving on to Everton, or officially joining them in the summer, but nevertheless, Norwich are advertising for that position, and that's not as sexy in the here and now, but I think in the mid to longer term, they need to get that right at that level as well. They need to get the right people in those positions, and they also need to get the right talent ID at younger age groups, because I feel in the last 3 or 4 seasons, even the lad who's coming in from Drogheda United in the Republic, Vinnie Leonard, there's a 17, 18-year-old prospect who they picked up, but his development pathway has been at another club. It needs now to be much younger age groups, a lot more infrastructural work done, a lot more focus there. And then, hopefully, we're not looking at a Bauman and a Mundell Smith as, isolated examples, but there is an actual progression of talent, because it's very clear that is one of the pillars of what this club are all about moving forward, and have been in the past. But I think we'd all agree the lack of homegrown talent. I mean, when you're kind of going back as far as the Todd Cantwell cycle, then it hasn't really produced what it should have done for the investment. It's a Category 1 academy, as is all those Premier League clubs. So for me, it should have been pulling its weight far better than it has. There's factors behind that, I'm sure. But now, moving forward, maybe we're just seeing a little signal tonight with the presence of those younger players on the bench. But certainly in seasons to come, you'd like to think that, given how it feels progressive, the work is at first team level now around Clement, that is going to start to percolate down, and we'll start to see academy produced talent coming through, because the reality is, financially, even with Atanasio's wealth, he's not going to do it that way where he's just going to put his hand in his pocket. He wants to be self-sufficient, heavily data-led, and part of that process is clearly developing their own talent.
Absolutely, and we'll speak a little bit more about their young talent, because there's a milestone for one of them, not quite academy product, but not far off. We've got our poll running at the moment. You can see that to the right of your screen there. You have to comment 1, 2, or 3 on whatever platform you're watching this to register your vote for how you see the game going. Obviously, me and Paddy will outline how we see it going very shortly, but 53% of the vote predicting a Norwich City win, 33% going for a draw, and we've got 13% for a Derby win as well. So that's how the poll looks at the moment, and we'll reevaluate that towards the end. But we mentioned the milestone, Paddy. I mean, Kellen Fischer tonight making his 100th appearance for the club. Still only 21, which I think is easy to forget. He's going to be playing, you would assume, at left back tonight. We'll wait and see, because we thought he was going to be playing left back on Saturday, and he ended up at right back. But you would presume the way when Norwich have lined up with Stacey and Fischer, it's typically been Fischer on the left side. He's played in midfield. He's played all over the place. He inverts and all of this type of stuff as well. A really intelligent footballer. Feels like he's slowly developing into quite a big asset from a Norwich City perspective. And a century up today. What an achievement that is for that young man at such a premature stage of his career.
Yeah, what was he now, Connor? Is he 21? He is 21, isn't he? He is, isn't he? Yeah. So, I mean, we touched on it in the podcast recorded at the weekend, really. I mean, I went for him for my young player. You said it was a very close race with him and McConville, and he is the reigning player of the year, if I'm right saying, young player of the year. So that tells you over this thick end of 2 seasons now how good he's been, how many games he's played, the strides he's made. Touched on it just in my previous remarks there that really he came in from Bromley, non-league Bromley as it was then. They're going great guns now up the pyramid, but at that point he was a non-league player. That was his background, very unusual. Lee Carsley touched on this the other day when the young Lions were here, obviously playing at Norwich, that he hasn't come through the academy pathway that some of those established superstars in the making have done, and maybe that's given him a different perspective in terms of his football journey. But in very short order, he proved no, he's far better than development level, and it's that versatility. Yeah, I think we probably will see him at left back tonight. You know, in the Torup era, he was inverting into almost central midfield positions and trusted with the responsibility to build the play. Glenn was on the Oncom Norwich podcast there recently and eulogising about what a modern type of footballer is and how they wanted him just to add that kind of bite and tenacity and personality to his game. And I think we've started to see that a little bit more. It's almost like he's taking that responsibility on as well, despite his relative youth in this group of players. That tells me he feels very comfortable playing in the Championship. And you know, the only fear I have around him now is that we've hit the summer and because there's already been links previous windows to Premier League clubs. Everton seems to be mentioned with him periodically. Would I be surprised if there's more Premier League clubs linked to him? No. And that in itself tells you what Norwich have on their hands, which is highly prized commodity, a young English defender with now 100 senior games under his belt. You know, there's not too many of them about in the top 2 tiers, I would suggest. So, irrespective of what happens in terms of the summer, you just hope that, there is a player who, for the foreseeable, sees his development best placed under Philippe Clement, hopefully in a Championship promotion pushing squad next season. Because my worry would be with him if we're not trying to push him out the door, but if he was to go now and you get lost in a Premier League sort of squad and you don't play a lot of minutes and then you find yourself back out on loan before very long. So, not that he would feel the need to take any advice from the likes of you, Connor, but I would suggest that he's playing 100 games because he's in an environment and under a head coach who trusts him and is willing to give him that responsibility. So for me, I would hope it is a little bit premature this summer if he was to depart. And there's no sense of that whenever you speak to him. He feels such a mature lad, and he understands the journey he's been on, and he knows full well he's not the finished article. And I'd imagine if Clement had a few more of them in his squad, he would be very delighted. So congratulations to him. It's a great achievement.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I always go back to former sporting director Stuart Webber. Actually, he used to speak about young players, and it was only ever when they hit kind of that 100 figure mark that he kind of said, "Yep, you're a professional now. On you go. You go and now build a career." And I'm with you. I think he's in such a good place at the moment in terms of playing regularly and being trusted as well to play games and looking really good at the level. I'm with you. Why swap that to a Premier League club? And I'm sure he'd back himself to compete, and I'm sure he would compete. But the prospect of staying here, being involved in something pretty memorable and playing consistently, I think is probably the best thing for him. He's still so young, as we've mentioned, and he's got a wise head on those young shoulders. So I'm sure he will make the best decision for him. And congratulations to him tonight, because that is some achievement. If you look at the poll, Paddy, down on the right, we've got 63% going for a Norwich win, 29% for a draw, 8% for a Derby win. What's your thoughts? What way are you leaning if you had to add your contribution to that poll this evening?
Well, I was very surprised yesterday before the press conference when I thought I'll just see what Derby have done on the road, because they played my boys recently, and although Coventry won that game, that was a very difficult assignment. Derby were leading at points and had a real good go. They went to the CBS and didn't take a backward step, but they've actually only won one of the last 6 away from home in the league. So there's reasons for that. They've lost by the odd goal at Coventry, Millwall, Southampton. So for some reason, they and Norwich were on the wrong end of it, probably unjustly at night under Liam Manning's charge. But they're obviously very strong at home, less so away. So you fear that maybe losing Schwartz, losing Ahmed evens it up a little bit, but I'm still probably going to err on the side of a 2-1 home win. I think I did like Clement's comment regarding those Sami Smodic. We're already in the playoffs. I don't think that was aimed at in any disrespectful way to Norwich, but Phillips seemed to take it a little bit as well, okay, we'll see.
I think. Sorry to jump in. I think there was a tweet from him about looking forward to playing at Carrow Road with a tractor emoji. So, I think there will be a little bit of extra on that given his Ipswich credentials. But yeah, you're right. I don't think that was specifically aimed at Norwich, was it?
But I actually liked that he took that and ran with it, and whether they need any internal motivation, I don't get the sense they need too much geeing up under Clement's charge. But if there is a sense in the dressing room of the home players that Derby have more or less inferred they're just going to turn up here and roll Norwich over, then good, because as we saw at second half against Bristol, this is the head coach who will not accept dropping off their levels, and told them in no uncertain terms at half time, and basically said, you've got a few more minutes to sort this out or I'm making changes. So yeah, they won't lack for focus or motivation tonight, so I'm going to go a narrow home win. Connor, you?
Ooh, yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Derby obviously come here knowing that they need a win really to keep that pressure on Hull and Wrexham, both of whom in action tonight. You'd hope that would create a slightly more expansive game. You know, we did a whole section on the pod speaking about low blocks and maybe how Norwich have struggled. You don't get the sense, even though I know John Eustace is kind of a defence-first coach and organised. I don't think they'll be open and free, but I think there will be space for Norwich to play, and crucially for Motore to get in behind as well. And you look at the others tonight in that playoff race. Hull also away at Leicester, Wrexham also away at Oxford United, two struggling teams that you'd think they would back themselves to get results against. So I think it's pretty important that they come here and win this game, and that feels like it probably favours Norwich a little bit more. So yeah, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go for a tight Norwich win. I'm going to go for 1-0 though, and to keep a clean sheet. But I do think it will be tight. This, of course, is the penultimate home game of the season. If you're coming down, don't be swayed by the sunshine, because I can tell you in the press box I am freezing cold. So make sure, I don't know if you've got a bright coat, Paddy. There's a wicked wind up here, so there's a little bit of weather advice for free if you get that.
I might stay down here, Connor, then, if that's what you're telling me.
Good idea, yeah. Stay in the heated room for as long as possible, I would say. Pinkin.com, the place to go this evening for all your coverage, analysis and reaction. Paddy will be speaking to Philippe Clement after the game. You'll be able to watch all of those over on our YouTube channel as well. I'm on the live blog at pinkin.com and over on the Pinkin Plus app. And make sure, remember, we've got our live podcast coming up. We are at the Yard now in a couple of weeks' time. I have a fancy graphic. There you go. All of the information is on there. You can get your tickets online if you search the NewsQuest store. You'll be able to find them. There's a story on our website as well for if you need some help locating that. Or get in touch with us, and we're happy to send to you. Tickets selling fast, so make sure you go quickly. It's £6 for non-subscribers, and subscribers get a little bit of a discount as well, and that is £2. So that's the Yard on Red Lion Street in Norwich on Sunday the 3rd of May, the day after the final day of the season. Doors open at 4:30 p.m. and the show starts at 5. It'll be myself, Paddy, Adam, all there to talk about what has been a really rollercoaster campaign. We would love to see you there as well. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy your evening, and do what Benny says. Look forward to seeing you there, Benny, and hopefully we'll see plenty more of you there as well. Thank you very much for watching. See you soon.